Hey guys, welcome back to another DK podcast. It's your homegirl Joey. We are at episode 26. In this episode, you have myself and my producer Justin. We will be recapping our first roundtable discussion, the first roundtable discussion for many to come. And this episode will be broken down into two episodes, 26.1 and 26.2. Without further ado, let's go.
Hey, what's up, friends and family? It's Justin and
Joey.
Welcome. This is episode 26.
Yes.
We are here with another recap. It is safe to say that we are back at it again.
Yes.
So, Joey, how have you been? What's going on? Tell everybody what's been happening in your life.
I have been really good. I have been very blessed and highly favored. Just been working. Normal, being mommy. It's Christmas time, so, trying to get everything situated with the toy giveaway, collecting our families, and, partnering up with different other foundations. What else? I mean, that's pretty much it, for real. That's pretty much the gist of it. How about yourself? How you been? What you been up to?
I've been good. I'm just happy to be alive.
Always.
I want to get through this weekend.
Yes.
It's a big weekend.
What's
We're not
going
going
on
to spoil
this weekend?
it. We'll talk about it
Okay.
next week. So, you don't remember what this weekend is?
I do. I just thought maybe you would let me in.
Okay. All right. Got you. Yeah. So this is actually a recap episode of our first roundtable discussion, one of many. And pretty much what ended up happening was this became like a roundtable discussion specifically about like just barriers to re-entry. And we had 4 of us on there. There was myself, you,
Yes.
who's the Dreamcatchers,
Rep.
rep. Yeah. Then we had Cornell Titus, her bestie from PCSI.
Yep.
Who is a re-entry specialist. We had Seasons Williams as well, who worked for Reimagine Reentry. And just by osmosis of us in the room, press and record, we had a really dope conversation about just barriers that people face, specifically people who have been incarcerated, who are coming home, that they have towards reentry. And one of the main things that came up was just the housing instability. So talk to us about that, what you remember around that conversation. But we started with housing, but we talked about a lot of different things. So.
Right. Yeah. I mainly remember housing because from my understanding from Seasons and from Cornell that it is one of the biggest obstacles that most people coming home from prison have issues with. And so from what I remember that they were saying that like men, it's kind of easier when they come home because for the most part, with a lack of better words, they attach themselves to women who already have basically a foundation that's somewhat stable because there's a home and food and, so on and so forth. They can really just like fly in because the majority of them, they don't have custody of their children or, they're not trying to fight their way to get custody of their children. So they kind of just like, land the ship. But for women, it's a little bit more difficult because, when they go in and they come home, whatever relationship that they were possibly in is probably obsolete. And so, they actually have to get out here and find housing. And not too many people want to rent to people with backgrounds because they don't know what you could possibly do to their property, which is understandable. You know what I mean? Totally get it. They don't know if you're coming with baggage, i.e. children, i.e. maybe, a significant other. It could be like sometime abusive relationships and property gets damaged or, children with no, home training, for the lack of better words, and property get damaged. So, a lot of property owners, they are hesitant. They're hesitant to rent to, people with backgrounds. So that stood out majorly to me.
Yeah. So as I did my homework, I always do. That was two of the main things you talked about was just like the landlord perception and trust. You kind of hit on that. You really spoke about how like the reluctancy for landlords to rent to people who were incarcerated was just a mistrust, and specifically, it's just rooted in fear.
Yeah,
like they don't know, like they don't do the due diligence to even understand why this person went away, what was the circumstances, and different things of that nature.
Right.
So you spoke about that, as you mentioned, and you also talked about like the question has been if the tenant has been rehabilitated, and what does that look like, and then just legal activities are like, am I going to rent to somebody who's going to turn my place into a trap house? Like,
right,
type
exactly.
Of vibe. Yeah.
You took the words right out of my brain. I was just literally thinking that, like, they're probably thinking like, dag, am I going to rent to this person and my place is going to be a meth lab?
Yeah, a meth lab. That's what you said. Yeah,
but
meth lab.
Without them, taking the time out to maybe possibly interview the tenant and actually see what they were incarcerated for, because one might not have nothing to do with two.
Yeah, this is true.
It could be that a person may have been incarcerated because they kept stealing.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with drugs.
Yeah.
They might just be a klepto. And then now the landlord, in their mind, they're thinking, the most heinous situation. And, and I get it. I'm not saying that they're wrong, and I'm not saying that they're right either, because they do have to protect their property. That's their hard-earned money. However, again, if a person is supposed to be rehabilitated, give them that opportunity to, show them otherwise. Like I said, maybe sit down and have a conversation, get to know the person, Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the things that was discovered throughout this process, was that even before the application is even in, the stigma is there, and it's going to be really difficult. One of the things you talked about was just the screening barrier, kind of like, as you just mentioned, talked about the hurdles systematically that can happen. You talked about like the standard practices now include a mandatory background check. So in that, people are automatically flagged with criminal records and credit checks and different requirements like that. And when somebody's just coming home, they don't have a lot of that stuff squared away, specifically if they've been going for a certain amount of time.
Right.
That credit history and other things are really challenging. One of the things you said, I want to just have you unpack that a little bit more. We're kind of getting into this with housing, is you said that in order to be successful, you got to be stable. Yes. So that was like, I'm quoting you from the episode. That's what you said. So talk to us more about what that means to you, what that looks like, the idea of stability, and how people can kind of get stable as they're coming home.
So one of the things that Seasons had said was, which was a really good idea. Like, it actually was a great idea that, if you are still attached to your family while you are incarcerated, or if you have a family member who is incarcerated and has been gone for, a significant amount of time, and let's just say that you're doing really good out here, and you got everything situated. You got your house, you got your car, you got your job, you got decent credit. Offer to put them on to one of your credit cards or something like that, so while they're gone, that they can build some type of credit for when they come out. Then they won't have to necessarily lean on you. They'll have a running start. They can hit the ground running. Like I said in the roundtable discussion, that when I came home, I was blessed to have my grandparents, and I was able to get housing with them. I was able to live in their house, and my grandfather, he had told me, he said, this is not a free ride. You come and live here, you got to pay. And what they did for me at the time, I didn't know, but I, shortly found out once I was ready to, get out on my own and get my own place and things like that, was what they did for me was that they, the money that I was paying them, they actually was putting it away from me. And then once I was ready to go, they gave me the money back. And so I not only had the money that I was setting aside to get my own place, I had more money than what I expected to have.
That's awesome.
So your family or your friends, because everybody's not, in a position where they have family members, but your close circle, you know, they definitely should be involved in your stability because you're going to need them. And for those who don't have anyone, I advise you to, find yourself a church home and, build a relationship with, your church members, your family, because they'll become your family, and they'll help you. You're not necessarily completely out here on your own. You're only out here on your own if you choose to be out here on your own. And so, like you were asking me about the foundation is very important because without somewhere to lay your head, without a job, the chances are you're going to go and revert back to your old ways, and they give you the rope to hang yourself. Long story short, they give you the rope to hang yourself. So, just don't do it. Like I said, if you have a house or a place to lay your head, I don't want to say a house because, sometimes you can only afford a room, but a place to lay your head, a stable job, and the likelihood of you going back is very slim.
Yeah. I'm really happy that you shared your story because as we talked about even in this episode, we found out that re-entry issues are not monolithic, meaning like men have different issues than women. And a lot of times we don't really understand the issues that women face. We often hear about when men come home, and even on the podcast, it's been majority of men, but women face issues too. And like, that was something that came up in our episode. So we talked about like the pressures, the disadvantages, specifically like there are holes in policies and the way programs are designed. So like, if a woman's a mom coming home from prison, the challenges are there because she got to regain custody of her kids. Yep. She got to be secure. She got to be stable, job and all that. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. Whereas men, based upon what the experts shared, like, and these are just statistics, like these aren't things that I make up. You know what I mean? They just got to focus on just establishing themselves a lot of times before they can take on other responsibilities. Now, not all men are like that and not all women are like that, but the majority of people's experiences when they come home. One of the other things was talked about was a lot of times, specifically when moms go away, for whatever reason, they tend to lose more contact with their families than men do. Yeah. So I just thought that was really interesting and being floored by listening to that because as somebody who... I've not been incarcerated, thank Jesus. I never got caught, but I digress. Statute of limitations. No, all jokes aside. I take my fatherhood very seriously. Like I take being a parent very seriously. So to hear some of these hurdles that people are facing is a really big challenge. One of the things that I know with Dream Catchers, you want to help with that, with the reentry for moms specifically. Yes. So you weren't a mom when you went to prison and when you came home, correct?
Correct.
So if you were a mother, if you're a mom right now, right, like watching this is for you. But if you were a mother who was incarcerated or you're coming home, how would you do things? How would you navigate this landscape based upon what you've lived and what you understand?
So as much as we want our children and we want to be with our children, my suggestion would be to stabilize yourself. You have to. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it because they're not going to give you your children back until you are stabilized. And it may, as much as it may hurt to be away from your children, you got to put yourself in the mindset of, I got to get it and I got to get it for them. So getting a job, right? Dag, I'm over here balling this mic up. But get a job, right? And even if it's starting small, even if it's getting a 1-bedroom apartment, as long as you have a roof over your head, you'll be able to get visitation. I know you want them with you. I know you do, because I want mine with me all the time. Even no matter how much they drive me crazy, I be wanting them with me. However, small steps, small steps become medium steps become larger steps, become jumps, so you just have to do your stepping stones. And like I said, I would personally establish myself first, and then I would start to slowly move on into the realm of getting my children back.
Yeah.
But you have to have that solid foundation. I cannot say it enough. Find a church home. And I'm not saying find a church home so you can use the people that's in the church. No, find a church home so that you can build a solid foundation, because without Christ, there is no solid foundation.
Yeah.
There is none. So find you a church home. And I promise you, it may not fall in line the way that you want it to fall in line, because it's not your timing, it's God's timing, but it will fall in line. Patience is a virtue, honestly. Things always work out for the best when you lean on Christ.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, you got to find you a church home. And if you don't have one, Pastor Joey has Dreamcatchers International Ministries. You can join her ministry team. Call the number at the bottom of that screen. Now, all jokes aside, you definitely need a good foundation.
Hey, listen, in Valley View, come one, come all.
Come one, come all. There you go. There you go. So we transition from housing. A big part of housing is getting a job.
Yes.
So how this whole prison industrial complex is systematically designed to disrupt the nuclear family, disrupt situations, disrupt people's lives. One of the big things y'all talked about and we discussed was this idea of not just stigma in getting housing, but stigma in employment. And we're talking about the need for background clearance. So like Cornell, one of the things he talked about with his organization, they help individuals clear the background checks by addressing those barriers and different things like that. There's other hurdles that are there, like extra requirements that are not actually asked by other recipients because you have been incarcerated. So we talked about those different things. Jobs. So I know we've shared this on a whole bunch of different podcasts so far, but I really want you to really kind of emphasize this job thing, because you had a job waiting for you, but you got a really dope job working for the post office.
Yeah.
And even to this day, when people find out that you went to jail, but you work for the post office, they're like, how does that work?
Right.
So
right.
just talk about that a little bit, the importance of getting a good job and how that can help people kind of bounce back.
Okay, so I'm going to say every job, no matter what type of job it is a good job, because you got to start somewhere, right? So whether it's McDonald's, whether it's, Giant Eagles for the people that's in, or
did you say McDonald's? It's McDonald's. Is it Mick or Mac? Or Giant Eagles?
Is it
Did
Mac?
you put an S on it?
You know what? That's my Pittsburghian accent, okay? So McDonald's, McDonald's for them West Coast people. Giant Eagles is a grocery store on the East Coast. So, however, what I'm getting to is, whether it's a maintenance job or something of the sort, like all jobs matter, right? All jobs matter. You get in there and you do your best. Again, a stepping stone. It might not be what you want. You may feel like you're overqualified. And trust me, if you're overqualified, they're going to tell you you're overqualified. But everybody needs somebody somewhere. And nothing should be beneath you, because you're starting over. You're starting over. You're not going to come home and be a CEO of a Fortune 500. You're not going to come home and step into an $80,000 job. I mean, some people are fortunate to do that, but the mass majority were not. We're not. So when I came home, I was actually blessed that I was able to come back to my job that I had before I went to jail, which was working at a beer distributor. You know what I mean? I was working in an office and I was an office manager, but I worked my way up to that. I came in as a cashier.
They let you manage the office?
Yeah, they let me manage the money. They let me play with the money.
If you knew what I knew, that's a miracle.
But
God will use you any way He can.
Yes, He will. Yes, He will. And I was so appreciative from Miss Roberta, God rest her soul, that she cared about me enough to say, hey, when you are getting ready to come home, let us know, and you come right on back, And so there are places that they will welcome you, and again, nothing is beneath you because you're starting over. So, I started there, and then they were kind of crazy. We had our moments. It was up and down. One minute we was cool, the next minute we wasn't cool. So at one point we had a falling out. I had got suspended, and I went to Florida with my family. And while I was down there, I talked to my aunt who was up here in Pittsburgh, who was a manager at the post office, and she said, take a chance. Long story short, she said, take a chance. And I'm like, a chance? I got a felony. They're not going to hire me. And she was like, just take a chance. And I said, you know what? I prayed to God, and I said, God, if I get into this post office, I'm never going to look back. And that's basically what happened. I got in there, and I've been there for 10 years. I did skip a step because I had my ups and downs with the beer distributor, because my managers, they were very like always, I don't know. I don't want to talk about that. But I had left there, and then I went to go and work for a business called Triad Metals. And I was a receptionist with them as well. I did some computer work as well, but the majority of the time I was answering phones, taking orders. I ended up working in their warehouse and doing their shipments, computer work for the shipments and stuff. But then we ended up parting ways, and I went back to the beer distributor because I tried to file for my unemployment, and they didn't want to pay me unemployment. So they called me and said, hey, won't you come back? And I was like, hey, you know what? I will. And then I went back, and then we fell out again. And then that's when the whole situation with Florida kicked in or whatever. However, you got to start somewhere. Long story short, you have to start somewhere. And nowadays, some of these bigger, larger companies are hiring felons. I just got a message from my sister who is on the DK board. You guys know her if you watched our previous episode, my sister Clarice Puda. Hey, girl. But she sent me a text message yesterday saying that UPMC is hiring felons, and they're hiring felons for their housekeeping. They're hiring felons for their kitchen work, dietary, stuff like that. So, you just get your foot in.
Yeah. And those are good jobs.
Yes. Get your big toe in.
Those are good jobs.
And you can always branch out to go to other departments within UPMC. The same with the post office. If you come in as a carrier, once you become a regular, you have the opportunity to branch out to different departments of the post office, because the post office services itself. It has its own mechanics. It has its own nursing systems. Like, it has everything that it needs to be able to operate within itself. So, our president is a felon, okay? And if he could be the president with all them felonies, somewhere somebody is going to be willing to let you come aboard as long as you are willing to perform.
Yeah.
Don't think you're going to come in and just be willy-nilly, because nobody's going to pay for you to be willy-nilly, because you're going to mess up their business. You got to come in ready to work and ready to do business.
Yeah. Now, you said the president's a felon.
Yes, he is.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. Like,
did they release the tapes, or like what's
13,
happening here?
He got like 13 felonies.
I'm messing with you.
I know.
We used to sing a song. If you're from Wilkinsburg, shout out. There was a music teacher named Mr. Youch. Okay. And he used to have a song called "You Could Grow Up to Be President." Okay. We didn't believe it then. But I'm telling you what, I believe I could be president more now with him in office than Obama himself. You know what I mean?
Listen.
My track record is a lot better, but we will digress and we will continue on. I don't want to get myself covered and get myself in trouble and get our podcast
get us
banned
shut down.
here.
No, don't do it. We take it back, Trump. We take it back.
I'm just saying, if he can do it, you can do it. So.
Hey guys, thanks again for stopping by to view our latest episode, a recap of our first roundtable discussion. This episode 26.1, like I said before, is broken down into 2 episodes. So we will see you next week for 26.2. God bless, be safe, and we'll see you next week.